The text message arrived at 11:47 a.m. on a Saturday. Family brunch at Silverwood Country Club, 1 p.m. Don't be late. And Nora, try to dress appropriately this time. My brother Ethan had a special talent for turning simple invitations into quiet threats. I stared at the screen for a few seconds before setting my phone down on my desk. Outside my office's floor-to-ceiling windows, the city stretched endlessly, glass and steel glowing under the midday sun. Normally, that view grounded me. Today, it didn't. Silverwood Country Club. I hadn't set foot there in 6 months, not since the acquisition closed. The former owners had practically begged to sell. Crushing debt, outdated management, and absolutely no long-term vision. I'd bought the club outright for $12.3 million, all cash. The paperwork had been handled discreetly through my holding company. My personal name never appeared anywhere. My family had no idea. They never asked about my work. In their minds, I was still Nora, the quiet daughter, the awkward sister, the one who chose computers instead of a real profession. The one who dressed simply and drove an unimpressive car. The family underachiever. At 31, the reality was very different. I'd founded 3 software companies, sold 2 of them, and now ran a private equity firm focused on distressed luxury properties. My net worth crossed $340 million last quarter. But to my family, I was still a disappointment. At 12:55 p.m., I pulled into Silverwood's parking lot, easing my 6-year-old Honda Civic between Ethan's brand new Mercedes and my sister Claire's Range Rover. The clubhouse gleamed in pristine white, colonial architecture freshly restored. I'd personally approved the renovation, $2.8 million for the terrace alone. Ethan waited at the entrance, arms folded. "You wore jeans," he said flatly. "Good to see you too." "This is a private club," he muttered. "I had to vouch for you. Try not to embarrass me." I smiled. "I'll try." Inside, wealth hummed quietly, crystal glasses clinking, soft laughter, muted confidence. Our parents sat at a prime table overlooking the golf course. Richard Hale, my father, already looked flushed. Elaine, my mother, glanced up with thinly disguised disappointment. "Nora," she said. "Yes, Mom." I came. And just like that, I knew this lunch wouldn't end the way they expected. Claire settled into her chair beside her husband, Mark, adjusting her designer jacket, as if she were posing for a photo. Her eyes flicked over my outfit one more time, lingering just long enough to make her disapproval clear. Ethan sat across from me, confident and relaxed, like this room belonged to him. My father, Richard Hale, cleared his throat and leaned back in his chair. "Your mother and I wanted to discuss something important," he said, lifting his glass. "Here it comes," I thought. "It's about the family trust," my mother, Elaine, added. Her voice carried that familiar mix of concern and authority, the tone she used whenever decisions had already been made. Ethan leaned forward, folding his hands. "Given where we all are in life," he said carefully, "it makes sense to revisit the distribution." "Revisit," I repeated quietly. "You're 31, Nora," my father said, shaking his head slightly. "Still unmarried. No stable career to speak of. Those computer projects you do from home," he waved a dismissive hand. "They are not projects," I replied evenly. "They are businesses." Claire smiled thinly. "Let's not get defensive. This isn't personal. It's about responsibility." "Exactly," Ethan added. "I have my law practice. Claire and Mark are expanding their medical clinics. We understand how to manage assets long term. My mother reached over and squeezed my hand with practiced warmth. You're smart, Nora. But you never really applied yourself the way you could have. You could have gone to law school. Or business school. Instead, you chose, whatever this is. Software development, I said. And private equity. Ethan laughed. Not politely. Actually laughed. Private equity. Come on. You do freelance coding from your apartment. That's not private equity. That's barely employment. I took a slow sip of water. My heart rate didn't change. Years of negotiations had taught me that calm unsettled people more than anger ever could. The point is, my father continued, encouraged by my silence, we are restructuring the trust. Ethan and Claire will receive the majority. You'll still get something, of course. How much? I asked. Elaine hesitated for half a second. $50,000. The trust was worth nearly $8 million. That should be more than enough for your lifestyle, Claire said softly. I nodded once. That seems fair. The relief around the table was immediate. They'd expected resistance. Instead, they got compliance, and it pleased them far more than they realized. The tension at the table dissolved the moment I agreed. Ethan relaxed back into his chair, clearly satisfied. Claire exchanged a knowing look with Mark, as if they'd just settled a difficult negotiation. My parents visibly softened, their discomfort replaced with approval. I'm glad you're being mature about this, Ethan said, signaling for the waiter. Family harmony matters. Absolutely, my father added. Now let's enjoy lunch. It's on Ethan today. The waiter arrived, and Ethan made a show of ordering premium wine, imported steaks, appetizers that cost more than most people's weekly groceries. When it was my turn, I ordered the pan-seared salmon. Just that, my mother asked, eyebrows lifting. No starter. I'm fine, thank you. Claire smirked at Mark. Always watching her spending. Smart, I guess. Throughout lunch, the conversation flowed effortlessly around me, like I wasn't even there. Ethan talked loudly about an upcoming high-profile case. Claire discussed opening 3 more clinics before the end of the year. My father complained about his golf handicap, while my mother outlined their plans for a Mediterranean cruise. No one asked about my work. No one asked about my life. At one point, Ethan turned toward me with what he probably thought was generosity. You know, Nora, if you ever decide you want something more stable, I know a few firms looking for administrative help. Legal secretaries, assistants. The pay isn't amazing, but it's reliable. That's very thoughtful, I replied evenly. I'll keep it in mind. After lunch, Ethan suggested drinks on the terrace. As we walked through the clubhouse, he nodded to several members, clearly enjoying the attention. When we reached the terrace entrance, he casually swiped his membership card. Nothing happened. He frowned and tried again. The reader flashed red. That's strange, he muttered. Must be a system issue. A young staff member approached, Lena, a woman I remembered interviewing myself 3 months earlier. She glanced at her tablet, then looked up. Mr. Hale, she said carefully, your membership status is currently under review. Under review? Ethan snapped. I've been a member here for years. I'm going to need to ask you to speak with management, she replied, professional but firm. My mother stepped forward immediately. This has to be a mistake. Just run the card again. At that moment, the general manager, Andrew Collins, approached. I'd promoted him recently. He met Ethan's glare calmly. Sir, Andrew said, your membership payments haven't been received for the past 2 months. The terrace grew quiet. And for the first time that afternoon, all eyes weren't on me anymore. Ethan's expression shifted from annoyance to disbelief. That's impossible, he said sharply. I have automatic payments set up. Andrew Collins didn't flinch. Years in luxury hospitality had trained him well. The automatic payment failed, sir. We sent multiple notices to the email address on file. When we received no response, club policy required us to suspend your access. My mother shook her head. This is ridiculous. Just charge whatever is owed. Ethan is a valued member. Andrew hesitated for the briefest moment and then, almost unconsciously, glanced in my direction. I met his eyes and gave the smallest shake of my head. I'm afraid it's not that simple, he said. The outstanding balance, including late fees, is $14,780. And per policy, the membership committee must now review whether reinstatement is even possible. The number landed hard. Ethan's face flushed deep red. 14,000. This is absurd. I want to speak to the owner. Right now. The owner doesn't usually involve herself in daily membership matters, Andrew replied calmly. I don't care what she usually does, Ethan snapped. Get her down here. I'm not being humiliated like this. My father stepped forward, voice booming with authority he was used to wielding. Do you know who we are? The Hale family has been in this city for generations. We know influential people. Fix this immediately. Andrew remained composed. Sir, I can pass along your concerns. What exactly would you like me to tell the owner? That this place is poorly managed, my father said, growing angrier. That my son is being treated like a criminal over a billing error. And that he deserves an apology. I understand, Andrew said. He pulled out his phone. Please give me a moment. He stepped aside, speaking quietly into the device. The call lasted less than a minute. When he returned, his posture had changed, subtle but unmistakable. The owner has agreed to come down, he announced. She was reviewing renovation plans in her office. Ethan straightened, confidence flooding back. Good. Someone with real authority. Claire pulled out her phone, clearly eager to share the unfolding drama. My mother smoothed her hair, preparing to meet someone important. My father adjusted his jacket. I stayed where I was, silent, watching. Within minutes, a composed woman with silver-streaked hair and commanding presence crossed the terrace. Victoria Reynolds, my chief operations officer, walked straight past my family without acknowledging them and stopped beside Andrew. She glanced at his tablet, then turned toward Ethan. Mr. Hale, she said calmly, I understand there's been some confusion regarding your membership. The air felt suddenly heavy. And for the first time, I knew the moment had arrived. Yes, Ethan said sharply, stepping forward. There's been a serious mistake. Your staff suspended my membership over a billing issue. I want it fixed immediately. Victoria Reynolds smiled politely, though there was no warmth in it. I see. And you requested to speak with the owner. Exactly, Ethan replied. I was told she'd be coming down. She is, Victoria said simply. Ethan frowned, glancing around the terrace. Where? Victoria turned, not toward the clubhouse, not toward the staff, but directly toward me. Ms. Nora Hale, she said clearly, her voice carrying across the terrace. Would you like to address Mr. Hale's concerns? The world seemed to stop. Every conversation died instantly. Glasses froze mid-air. Heads turned in unison. I stepped forward slowly, my expression calm, my posture relaxed. "Thank you, Victoria," I said. Ethan stared at me as if I'd suddenly begun speaking another language. What is this?" I nodded to Andrew. "Please pull up Mr. Hale's account history." Andrew turned his tablet so Ethan could see. Automatic payment failed on March 15th, bank indicated insufficient funds. Notices were sent on March 16th, March 30th, and April 12th. 2 voicemails were also left. Ethan's face drained of color. "This doesn't make sense." "It does," I said evenly. Policy was followed. My sister's voice trembled. "Nora, why are they calling you that?" I looked at my family, my parents, my siblings, people who had spent years underestimating me. "I purchased Silverwood Country Club 6 months ago," I said. "The acquisition closed in October. I'm the owner." Silence deepened, heavy and suffocating. "That's impossible," Claire whispered. "You can't afford this." "The purchase price was $12.3 million, I replied calmly. "Paid in full. I also own the Grand Crest Hotel downtown, the Lakeshore Golf Resort, and as of last week, the Silverwood Shopping Pavilion." My mother's hand flew to her mouth. "But you said you worked with computers." "I did," I said. Past tense. "I sold my second software company 5 years ago for $87 million. I've been in private equity ever since." My father's glass slipped from his hand, shattering against the stone floor. Ethan finally found his voice, thin and strained. You let us believe you were struggling." "You never asked," I said quietly. "You assumed." Victoria stepped forward. "Regarding Mr. Hale's membership, the suspension stands," I finished. "No exceptions." And just like that, the power in the room shifted completely. For several seconds, no one spoke. My mother was the first to recover. "Nora," she said, her voice trembling now, "surely you can't be serious. This is your brother. Family should come first." I turned to face her fully. "Family came first today, just not for me." Ethan took a step closer, lowering his voice as if that might regain control. "Look, this has gone far enough. Just reverse the suspension. We'll settle the balance. No one needs to know." I met his eyes. "Everyone already knows." Claire tried a different angle, forcing a weak laugh. "If you're really this wealthy, why do you live so quietly? Why drive that old car? None of this makes sense." "It makes perfect sense," I replied. "I don't measure success by how loudly I announce it. I don't need approval." Andrew shifted beside me. "Ms. Hale, there's one more matter. Mr. Richard Hale's membership account is also overdue. 2 months." I looked at my father. The man who had just told me I wasn't capable of managing wealth now couldn't even manage his own payments. His face had gone pale, his authority evaporating in front of an audience. "Suspend it," I said calmly. My mother gasped. "You wouldn't do that to your own father." "An hour ago," I replied, "you all decided I was worth less than 1% of the family trust because you believed I didn't understand money. Now you want me to break my own club's rules for you." Ethan's voice cracked. "Nora, please. This is humiliating." "Yes," I said. "It is." Claire's eyes filled with tears. "We didn't know." "If we had known, you would have treated me differently," I finished. "That's not better." Victoria Reynolds glanced at her phone. "Ms. Hale, the renovation contractor is here for your 3 o'clock meeting." Thank you, I said. Then I turned back to my family one last time. Your memberships are suspended pending payment and committee review. You may contact accounting during office hours. No personal checks. I began to walk away. Behind me, my mother's voice broke. Nora, please. I paused but didn't turn around. I didn't lose my family today, I said quietly. I lost the illusion that I ever truly had one. As I stepped into the main building, the noise behind me erupted, arguments, raised voices, panic. None of it followed me inside. For the first time, I felt lighter. The contractor meeting took exactly 40 minutes. We reviewed revised pool renovation plans, discussed material upgrades, and negotiated the final cost down by $50,000. Normal business. Normal decisions. No raised voices, no emotional manipulation, just facts, numbers, and strategy. The kind of conversation I'd spent years mastering. When it ended, Victoria walked beside me toward the exit. They are going to keep trying, she said gently. Calls, messages, apologies. I know, I replied. They always do once they realize what they've lost. By the time I left Silverwood at 4:30 p.m., the parking lot was nearly empty. My family's cars were gone. In their place, regular members sat on the terrace, laughing, sipping wine, completely unaware of the quiet implosion that had taken place earlier. I sat in my Honda Civic for a moment, hands resting on the steering wheel. My phone lit up, 37 missed calls. Messages from Ethan. From Claire. From my parents. 3 voicemails. I didn't open a single one. Instead, I drove home to my penthouse overlooking the city. The lights were just beginning to flicker on, skyscrapers glowing like constellations I'd helped build. I poured myself a glass of wine and stood by the window, watching the streets below pulse with life. My phone rang again. Ethan. I let it ring, then answered. We need to talk, his voice said, smaller than I'd ever heard it. Do we? I asked quietly. We didn't know, Nora. None of us did. I know, I replied. That's exactly the problem. There was silence. Then, what do you want from us? I looked out at the city, the properties I owned, the deals I'd closed, the life I'd built without applause. I want you to think, I said. About why you never asked. Why you were so comfortable believing I was a failure. We are sorry, he whispered. Are you sorry for how you treated me, I asked, or sorry that it turns out I'm successful? Silence again. That's what I thought, I said. Good night, Ethan. I ended the call and powered my phone off completely. Later, I opened my laptop. A new opportunity waited, an underperforming resort in Miami. Promising numbers. Clean potential. I made notes, calculated returns, smiled to myself. This was who I was. Not the quiet sister. Not the disappointment. Just a woman who built an empire while no one was watching. Their loss. Not mine.